So a subscriber asked me, should I go to NYU, New York University, or should I go to a more affordable school and not take on all that college debt? This is a great question, and there's a lot of factors at play here. And it's something that is relevant to me because I know people who went to or at NYU. Now, I think it's unique to your situation and your budget and your desires and goals and career path. Those unique factors do play an input on it. I think the short answer is depending on how much extra money you have, it depends. And generally speaking, if it's a lot more, skip going to NYU. You don't want to be tens of thousands of dollars in debt just for a fancy name in your resume, because that name is becoming less and less relevant. And I'm not just pointing to NYU, but just all prestigious universities in general versus the job you get. Of course, it depends because now we're going into the details, but it depends because it depends on your budget, your situation, what career path, because the prestige of the school does kind of depend a bit on what career you're going into and the impact of that prestige. So let me break it down into detail. First and foremost, do you know what career path or major you're set on, and how certain are you of that? Most, and I would say a vast majority of freshmen are not very certain. They may even think they are certain, but then they end up switching majors a few times. So you're likely in that boat, and if you are, then the prestige of the school becomes, it gets knocked down a bit in terms of priority, because certain things just don't matter as much as just getting a good education. A state university, even a good just general college can have just as much impact for a much lower cost. Now, probably the biggest impact is just what level of budget difference are we talking about here, and how much is that going to be a burden on you? Now, if it's a slight impact, such as maybe $5,000 more of a difference, or $10,000 more, just based off your family circumstance, that could be something that is doable. If you definitely are able to apply and secure a lot of scholarships and financial aid, and Ramit Sethi is a great personal finance blogger who has articles on securing lots of scholarships, and you're certain you can secure those scholarships and it's just $5,000 of difference more, then it may be worth taking the hit. But if it's $40,000, $50,000 more, that may be something that is not worth the hit. Dave Ramsey, top personal finance YouTuber, blogger, podcaster, and author for I think like 2 decades now, he often urges people to go for the more affordable school. He has a story about how he had a kid who wanted to go to University of Mississippi because the campus was prettier. And just because it was prettier, she was willing to take on $40,000 more in debt. And that's just not worth it, because that debt mounts over time. It becomes a burden for you to pay off, and it grows as well. So that's something that you have to consider. There's a lot of people who are so invested in the idea that undergraduate and graduate school will make them rich or turn their careers into something that's worthwhile, that they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to those schools, and then they have to pay off that debt. Now, there are certain occupations, like maybe lawyer, medical school, where it's worth it. But there's a lot that it ends up not being worth it. So you really have to think about it, because nowadays there's many jobs and employers who they don't really care what school you went to. They may give you a little bit more of an edge because you went to Harvard or something, but really they're just looking at, hey, can you program I'm going to run this exercise. Can you program and build this for me? Or can you graphic design how I want? Here are some exercises. Here, send me some of your samples. Because they care more about you getting the job done than what school you went to. And that's how people are getting degrees from certain schools. Now, is there still clearly a lot of bias left over from that old age of thinking? Yes, for sure. I know someone who works for Robinhood, which is a pretty popular stock trading tool and platform and app, and he told me that everyone on his team went to an Ivy League except for him, and he was able to get in through his ability to network, to show his skill, his ability to just be very good at networking and showing value. And that was crazy to me. It was outrageous because there was still clearly a lot of bias towards this higher Ivy League name rather than the work being done. Now, there's those types of remaining institutions that still think that way, or that have that level of thought even in a new industry or a new company. But there's also plenty of people I've seen where it's just like, what matters most is what should matter most, which is, can you get the work done in certain careers? So it kind of does depend on the industry and the job title that you're going for, the career path you're going for. But you have to ask yourself, what is NYU known most for? It's generally like the arts, certain art-themed career paths, and certain entertainment-based career paths. And so there's also some hard skills that they're known for as well. Are those things that you think the boost will be worth it for? Frankly, I don't think there's any truly wrong answer. I think you'll be fine. Congrats on getting into there. Either way, you'll figure it out and you'll do well in life. But for me personally, I think it's just a matter of circumstance and unique factors. There are people I know who go there and their parents paid for their tuition. There are people who were seriously considering other schools that are much lesser known, even though they got into NYU. And so either way, you'll figure it out. You'll pay off that debt, or you'll just go to a more affordable school and not have to worry about that debt, and probably still kill it in life because you're taking these tips and bringing them in. But generally speaking, if you don't have any idea what your major is, and if there's a significant amount of debt, like $40,000, $50,000 that you have to pay off, probably the prestige of that job title, unless you're going into being something like an actor, a med school, law school, and even those things, it's usually the post-grad that matters more. Then go for the more affordable school. It's obviously not a perfect world, not always a fair world, but it's still fair enough in your situation. I think either way, it seems like you're on a good path to killing it in life. So that's what I would recommend. Hopefully that made sense. There's definitely factors at play, and unfortunately bias in the real world of employment. But you really got to consider, is that really worth it? Are you going to be really squeezing the juice out of that degree? Are you going to be networking a lot with the other classmates and making it there? Or is it just going to be like any other school? So really ask yourself, why NYU? Is it just a pretty campus? Is it just XYZ? Is it the proximity to New York and you're going to start an acting career? Probably not, but those things matter in your decision. So hopefully this helped. I'll see you in the next video.